So Jeezy files for a divorce from Jeannie Mai. And we need to talk about this because I see red flags all over this. For those of you who don't know, Jeezy is a rapper and Jeannie Mai is a well-known TV host. They seem like the perfect couple, but now without warning, Jeezy is filing for a divorce. And whilst the internet is going for Jeannie Mai's neck, saying that she must have cheated, running clips where she's talking about having a terrible temper, which she herself admits. Check it out.
I have a really hot temper. Not a lot of people know this, but it's just something in my family. I've seen it in my grandmother. Saw it in my grandfather, to my grandmother, to my mom, to my aunts, to me, right? But I didn't notice it in myself until I was with Jeezy.
Interesting. You didn't notice in your previous marriage?
No, because it has to do with the type of relationship you have and the type of respect you have for that person to mirror things back to you where you actually would stop you in your tracks and evaluate yourself, you know?
So you had it.
So I had it, but nobody ever called me out on it. Also, in my line of work, sometimes being a boss isn't so great for you because you have a lot of people who just agree to what you want. They're yes men, right? And so I didn't notice that I had a hot temper until I got with Jeezy. And here's a person who is my equal and I really respect. And when I would spew some of my old habits, and he was like, like, who? That's not flying here. And also, it would trigger him to come back at me with things where I was like, who the fuck do you think you are? But I was triggering him. So through work, we learned that we both have certain habits that to the everyday person, from friends, family, fans, they'll never see it. But to the person who loves us deep enough, you can press that button and boom, the dragon comes out. And we both have it. So we had to work on that. But he never told me to fix my temper. I just saw it and I thought, unless I want to stay in this place where I lose this person I love and I stay in my comfort zone of doing what I want to do and function the way I have for the last 40 years when nobody else had to stop me.
Which obviously has done quite well for you.
Right, I could have. But this was something greater that I wanted. And also a great challenge to myself to say, what if, now that I know it exists and the dragon's there, what if I got rid of that? How do I kill that dragon or store it in its place so that it never creates havoc in my life? And that took work.
YouTube has taken this information and are basically saying that this is the reason why Jeezy filed for a divorce. However, I am actually looking at Jeezy with a bit of a side eye. And I know you think I'm always in defense of the women, but bear with me for a minute. In that audio clip, she admits that she has a temper. She also says that her temper triggered his temper and made him say things that were basically unacceptable. So she's self-aware enough to identify her own behavior, but then is essentially blaming herself for his behavior.
Could this be reactive abuse here? Maybe, because though he doesn't tell her to change, how did she come to the conclusion that she was to blame? Two things are possibly happening here. Either he's manipulating through reactive abuse, or on the flip side of that, she could be extremely codependent, which can cause you to automatically blame yourself when negative things happen. Either way, this is not a good sign. A more healthy assessment of their dynamic would be, wow, when we get into it, we bump heads and trigger each other. And I've taken steps to work on my part. I don't understand how them bumping heads turned into her having anger issues that have never been detected before, dating back through her lineage, and that trigger him. This is also a red flag because toxics and abusers love to label you with issues you don't have. And if they can link it to your family history or past trauma, even better. It's interesting that she managed to hold down a successful career and a 10-year marriage, and nobody has told her about her anger issues until now. Maybe all her past and current friends, intimate partners, and co-workers from the real are all yes men, or maybe Jeezy just made it up, or at the very least exaggerated things to make her the issue, as toxics like to do.
That's basically what I got from that clip. And everybody is kind of going with the flow of
the narrative of Jeannie Mai and her anger issues being the problem.
But what if Jeezy's the problem? Hear me out. Hear me out. I know you guys think I'm always defending the woman, but hear me out, because I see some serious red flags.
Another one being
Jeezy and his grand gestures. Right at the beginning of their relationship, he was throwing out grand gestures here and there, grand gifts, trips, all the rest of it. And what are grand gestures in the toxic and abusive dynamic? Love bombing, right? Now, on its own, maybe he's just a nice guy. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. But then I started thinking about what she said about her first date and how deep and vulnerable it was. And this is what toxics do to kind of really get to the core of who you are very, very quickly. They want to find out all your deepest, darkest secrets, your greatest pain, your greatest trauma, the things that make you happy, the things that make you sad, angry, X, Y, and Z, so that they can later use it against you. I think I did a video about that. I can't remember what the video is called off the top of my head, but I'll put the link in the comments. So basically, they do a huge investigation into who you are very early on. And she talks about this. I mean, it's in a more romanticized way, but what she describes sounds similar to that. There's no reason to be that deep and that vulnerable on a first date. You don't even know this guy. He doesn't even know you. It's not safe. Number 3, this guy is apparently spiritual and deep and, one with love and positivity and understanding and giving and just really for healthy, abundant relationships in life, right? So with that being said, why is his first course of action divorce? And I don't know for sure if they weren't working on things beforehand. I mean, there's no talk of marriage counseling. There's no talk of any kind of effort in that regard, which is a complete contradiction to the first red flag, right? Which is the grand gestures and all of this love and all of this understanding. Or where did all of that go? The minute the ish hit the fan, where is that? Him filing for a divorce is like a complete contradiction to that person.
From what I've seen of Jeannie Mai, she's willing to take responsibility and work on things even when she's wrong. And sometimes will go as far as to take too much responsibility.
And I can't think of anything that could happen that was so dramatic, short of her killing his firstborn, that would warrant him going straight for a divorce as opposed to basically not exhausting all other avenues before going for the divorce. To me, red flag. What are we doing? You loved her to death. She was your perfect person. Everything was amazing. She was amazing. You were amazing. Everybody was amazing. Now divorce? It's not adding up. Toxics and abusers
often have a very positive, open and loving front.
And one of the indicators that they're not really that person is this dramatic contrast that they display later on in the relationship. Anybody who goes from 100 to 0
over nothing or close to nothing is a red flag.
The next one for me is the fact that Jeannie ended up doing everything she said that she didn't want to do.
Check out what she says here about marriage and children.
I wasn't molded, but I definitely was changed. I walked into my first date with Jeezy saying, I don't want to get married. I had a very, very tumultuous time with it. And I got out of it for a reason. And I also don't want to have kids. So I want to put that out there to make sure that I'm not misleading you. I was really clear about that. And he later, in some time, told me, I actually do want to get married. So immediately I was like, okay. But he told you very straight out. I said no marriage and no baby.
Oh, wow.
He said no baby and I want to get married.
Oh, okay.
So then I said, if we keep dating, is it going to be dishonest to you? Because we're not heading in the same place. And he said, I don't think we have to worry about that now. Let's just keep dating and have a good time. And what I learned was my definition of marriage is not what his definition of marriage was. Neither is our definition that we could create together. So my definition of marriage is based on my parents falling out, my own falling out, my own fear of why 50% of marriages don't end up in marriage.
Yeah.
And you have somebody who is super willing and super eager and super disciplined about what he expects marriage to be, which really define what I think it
She said,
No, it sounds like you were molded and manipulated. She said she told him up front that she didn't want to get married or have kids in the beginning. And he, later on, when more feelings were involved, no doubt, told her that he does want to get married. If he's such an upfront guy, so solid, so intentional, why did he not tell her this at the beginning when she made it clear to him that she didn't want this? And she was writing questioning whether it was a good idea to keep dating. At this point, he had two options: to split from the relationship or continue whilst respecting the new conditions. He did neither, and instead, he encouraged her to keep going with the good old go with the flow line, which essentially means go with his flow, because I suspect he was confident that he'd be able to change her mind. And he was right, because she said she learned that his definition of marriage was different from her definition of marriage and the definition they could create together. What she failed to realize was his definition and the definition they could create together is completely irrelevant, as she'd already said from the beginning that she did not want that. And since he encouraged her to continue with the relationship, he should have been the one to respect that.
Her last marriage of 10 years actually split because she did not want to have children. But then she says that Jeezy made her feel safe enough to have children. And here's the thing, that might sound great that he made her feel safe enough to do that. But for me, it's kind of a red flag, especially with what follows after that. You see, toxics and abusers love to get you to do the very thing you said that you wouldn't or didn't want to do in the relationship. It makes them feel powerful. It makes them feel like they have control in that relationship, right? And they will actively go out of their way to do whatever they need to do, love bomb, manipulate, whatever they need to do to get you to do the very thing that you said you did not want to do. They absolutely love it. This is what I see happened in this relationship, because she had her first child, the one that he made her feel safe enough to have, in January 2022. And now, after making her feel safe enough to have that child, he's now leaving her.
We're now in September 2023, so it's been just over a year, and they've only been married, the other thing she said she didn't want to do, for 2 years.
That's ridiculous. Again, from 100 to 0. And the fact that he's just left her like that.
Even though he's the one that put in all the effort to make her feel safe enough to go against everything she said she didn't want. Him leaving her out of the blue like that is a huge contradiction to the safe, stable person he supposedly is. Red flag.
And again, this is what toxics do. They'll lure you into a position where they can continue to control you without actually being there. And that is usually through marriage, a business, investments, buying a house together, or a literal child. The child is the best one, really, because it guarantees access to you pretty much forever, right? So once they get you into that position, that's when they either show their true colors and become even more of themselves, even more abusive, even more toxic, or they leave the relationship knowing that they can come back at any time, maybe get themselves a girlfriend, a side chick, or whatever the case might be. Or maybe they just leave you entirely. The point being, because they now have you in the position they have you in, they now know that they can come back at any time.
Or continue to control from the sidelines.
And the last and final red flag is the way in which this divorce came to be. Like, a lot of people are saying that she knew about the divorce and they were separated for some time and she was just faking it. But then I heard this.
Is it possible? Because it's looking like that. That Jeezy, right, did a sneak attack on Jimmy. She has not posted about it. She has not done anything. She is busy working on New York Fashion Week. Now, I know her style is always to remain unbothered, but not for a divorce announcement. If this was a divorce announcement where two people were just having a conscious uncoupling and we just fell out of love and it's no one's problem, or he's like, no, what's that? Do you not think they wouldn't have released a joint statement saying we wish the best and we want to do this in private? He filed. It leaked. I'm thinking he leaked it or his camp leaked it. Jeannie looks like she was caught off guard. Okay? Do we know actually there's no joint statement? They're not saying we're going to be friends and we ask for privacy. Jeannie has not even commented. She is busy working New York Fashion Week. On top of that, let's look at the date of separation. Jeezy has been liking her pics up until 3 or 5 days, about 5 days ago, was the last post he actually liked. She's been promoting his book. She's been liking all the pics. It's been all good. Literally, she just took him on that really, really nice vacation to Vietnam. Again, it's been all good. Also, the date of separation is not listed. There's reports saying, oh, they've been separated for a while. They have not. Just August 3rd, she was at a show. They've been chilling hard together. What happened between them that made him rush to the courthouse, then leave? I'm assuming it's him, somebody in his camp. Who else would have the information? Jeannie didn't have the information. She didn't know the divorce was coming. Wasn't even public record. She didn't sign off on it. He's the one that filed, and she's been mum.
And if this is the case, if this is true, it really rings true with him being the toxic, because that's what they do. They'll find a way to blindside you. They'll find a way to make the separation from them as painful as possible. It doesn't matter what the reason is. He doesn't have to kind of like out of the blue file for a divorce. There is no situation in which that is necessary. Again, short of her killing his firstborn. There is no reason for him to do that, apart from being spiteful and evil and wanting to publicly humiliate her and hurt her in the worst way. And if you think about it, this would do the trick. She's out here publicly talking about submission and my man and I love him and he's great, and praying for him with her daughter and saying how safe and loved he's made her feel and X, Y, and Z. And then suddenly this, out of nowhere. Toxics do not separate from you in any kind of normal, healthy, amicable way.
And they will often try to make the breakup as painful for you as humanly possible.
And that is what I see here. So with all of these red flags put together, I'm now looking at Jeezy like he's the toxic. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit that bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. And until the next time, live boldly, live empowered, live from the inside out. Bye for now.